Welcome back to Rewitched, a charmed 1998 rewatch journey. I'm your host, Jess Sabanko, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on one of my favorite shows with you. Though episodes are now shorter, I will still be keeping them spoiler-free and welcome fans new and old to join me on my journey here and on social media at Rewitched_pod on Instagram and TikTok. Currently, I'm on season 5. All right, so this week we're talking about season 5, episode 14, San Francisco Dreamin'. This is a really fun episode and really interesting in diving into the minds of each of the sisters and Leo. In terms of our innocents and villains of the week, our innocent is the Sandman, who is one of many who have specific charges who they deliver this dream dust to in order to give them dreams, which we find out are really important in order for humans to solve the issues that bother them through their subconscious, which then allows them to function normally in the world. We then have our villains. The first is a tracer demon, who is the one who is specifically going after the Sandman. Tracers are basically these lower level demons who can follow different targets between planes. Then we have his boss, who we don't know too much about, just that he's an upper level demon looking to gain more respect and power in the underworld by creating chaos by eliminating these sandmen and kind of leaving their charges angry, creating more chaos on Earth, that type of thing. We later see that the tracer actually realizes that they can go after the charmed ones when he realizes that hitting someone with a large amount of dream dust will make their dreams manifest into the real world, which would obviously be a way that maybe they could finally take out the charmed ones by allowing their dreams to consume them. It kind of reminds me a little bit of last episode where they were letting the charmed ones' humanity try to consume and kill them. Now we have the same thing happening with dreams, which obviously, per usual, is a failed plan to take them out. In terms of the sisters and their individual storylines in this episode, we start out by first seeing Phoebe's dream, which is about this masked, killer guy with a chainsaw who's coming after her. It's reminding me of what we know about Phoebe in early seasons, where she has this connection to horror films, slashers, that type of thing. So that being the manifestation of her nightmare, I think is really interesting and really is consistent with her character that we've seen thus far. I think that the way that it's used to explore her trauma through the last season and the way that she immediately assumes that the masked figure is Cole and that she's subconsciously not over him yet. But then by the end of the episode, once she is able to defeat him by going into that dream world that the sisters do attempt to go into, when she is first running from this killer, having the hardest time facing her dreams, whereas both Piper and Paige kind of get out of it pretty quickly, Phoebe is continuing to run away from him, which even she points out earlier in the episode when talking with the Sandman is so strange for her, because in real life she's always ready to face the demons head on, but in this dream she always just runs away. The Sandman did bring up to her that she should unmask him, figure out what it is, demystify what the dream is about in order to stop it, in order to solve that for herself consciously so that she can move on in the real world, which she does when she unmasks the figure and realizes that it's actually her in the mask, that she's the one stopping herself from moving on. She says to her sisters when she describes the dream that it's basically like her self-sabotaging. She doesn't feel like she deserves to move on from Cole, and she's kind of tormenting herself in her dreams with this realization. Of course, all the sisters very easily determine their own psychology, which I think is kind of one of the silliest parts of this episode. It's are they all PhDs in psychology, that they're just understanding what each of these dream things meant? It isn't super not obvious. The way they talk about it, they just know everything and they're their own therapist, is really funny to me. But I do like the realization she comes to, the way she kind of recognizes these faults within herself. And hopefully this will mean that she is finally ready to move on, to forgive herself for this, and kind of get on with her life finally. In terms of Paige and what her dreams are, how they kind of manifest, so we see that she has this recurring dream that isn't so much a nightmare, but a little bit creepy, where she's at this baby shower at P3. In the real world, she is planning Piper's baby shower, so it is kind of like a comparison to that. And as she arrives with this like little clown toy that I think is really creepy, and Piper's friends later in the episode also call out as being really creepy, we find out it's like this toy from her own childhood, and she's walking up to give it to the baby, and as she starts doing this, all the guests drop their gifts and leave. She's kind of like, oh, like, don't you guys want to meet the baby? Like, you haven't even seen her, what are you doing? And that's when the clown kind of says like, oh, like, no one wants to meet her. Paige wakes up at this point. When she later travels into the dream world in order to face her dream, Phoebe tells her that she needs to approach the baby, give the baby the clown, see what happens once she gets there. So that's exactly what she does, and the clown kind of is like mocking her. He's like, oh, like, that's why you're here, like, you need to go see her, whatever. She gets to the cradle and sees that the baby is actually her. It has a little blanket that says Paige Matthews, and she comes to the realization that the reason she's so obsessed with Piper's baby shower, as we saw earlier in the episode, she's overdoing it with the decorations, overdoing it with all the food and party favors and all of that because she just wants it to be this huge, amazing celebration. It's a realization that because Paige's birth had to be kept a secret, no one ever got to celebrate her. And Piper actually did kind of point this out in the episode. She's like, I feel like you're making this a little bit more about you than about, you know, the niece. But it is this moment of like, Paige wants this half white lighter, half witch baby to be celebrated in a way that she never could. And Leo even says like, it's not going to be like for her what it was like for you. And it is this really like sad moment for Paige. Like, again, I really connect with her in this episode, just like I did in the last episode. Is Paige becoming my favorite character? Maybe. I'm connecting with her so much in season 5, and I'm just loving every minute of like the way these storylines are really shaping her for me. But yeah, no, it's this really like heartbreaking but beautiful moment. And the way that by the end of episode, she kind of like is like, oh, well, we could just have fun. Like, we don't have to make it this huge deal, because she realizes that a lot of it was her just like projecting her own disappointment and her own upbringing into what's going on for Piper, as opposed to making the baby shower about her and her daughter, which is obviously what a baby shower should be about. In terms of Piper and her dreams, so Piper's been watching a lot of soaps during the day and has a little crush on this like sexy little romance going on within the soap opera itself with this guy Ryder. And he appears in her dreams right after Leo kind of rejects her hitting on him. And she's like, oh, like, this is wrong, I'm married, won't give into it. So as kind of like this whole dream thing is coming up once they meet the Sandman, Piper is like really sketchy about like, oh, like, they just like don't know what we're dreaming, right? They just give us dreams, they don't see them. But we find out that they do, because the Sandman kind of like gives her this look when she's like trying to keep her dreams a secret and like quickly eliminate the demons so that dreams can stay where they belong in their own heads. And it's a really funny moment. We also see her kind of slipping up earlier in the episode. She's like, dreams are just like erotic little fun things. And everyone's like, did you just say erotic? And she's like, I meant exotic. And just kind of like cover up the fact that she's having these sexual dreams. Though her sisters really normalize it later on in the episode when Paige is kind of like, oh, we all have dreams like that as women. And I like that moment. I like the way that they're not trying to like embarrass Piper, make her feel bad about what she's feeling. Though obviously Leo is upset because she's dreaming about another guy, which is understandable in terms of their relationship. Once we do go into that dream world with Piper, we see that it's actually about the fact that Leo's ignoring her. Like, when she kisses Ryder and gives into it, when they pull back, it's actually Leo she was kissing. And she even points out to him, like, I wanted that moment to feel sexy with you. Like, you've been treating me like an incubator. I don't want, just because we're married and having a baby, us to lose that spark we just had in our marriage. And they do kiss, and it does seem like things are definitely getting better in that moment for them, which again, really happy. As they confront their dreams, we see those manifestations of them that were after them disappearing, because obviously they've defeated that subconscious struggle that each of them were having. We then see, once Leo feels the baby kick, that the pregnancy transfers back to Piper. And his dream was really about every time he would hold the baby, she would disappear. He couldn't connect with her. And we see him struggling with that earlier in the episode when Piper's talking about the baby kicking and like Leo wants to feel it, but like it's inside, he can't. And that desire to connect to the pregnancy and the baby, though obviously he is not giving Piper the attention she deserves. So I really like their dreams and the way they kind of connect through it. And it's both about their relationship, their love for each other, their love for their baby. It's a beautiful kind of like connection that we see between the two of them. And I did like Leo's role in this episode. I think the male pregnancy is really funny, the way they kind of play it out here. We obviously also saw it earlier this season when their daughter magically switched their places. So kind of a callback to those struggles that have been going on throughout this pregnancy for the two of them, with not always connecting in their relationship the way they're desiring to. In terms of Phoebe being her own worst enemy, the one thing I forgot to mention was that when they're first attacked by the killer in the attic, when she stabs him, it also stabs her. So while she's injured, the Tracer did take that moment to vanquish the Sandman. And obviously Phoebe did want to avenge that, and the sisters are able to by eventually defeating their dreams. And then when the Tracer shows up to come kill them because he thinks that it'll be easy now that they're so lost in their dreams, Piper quickly blows him up, and Paige is like, oh, like we have to find out who he's working for. And Piper's like, I'm not even worried about it at this point, which obviously we know that the Tracer already killed his boss, so that's never coming back. In terms of the ending to the episode, we then see, like I said, that Paige is now willing to have this smaller baby shower. They can move it to P3, though they're kind of like, oh, like we're so tired because they haven't been sleeping other than under the dream spell where they went to face their things. And as they're at P3, we see that in the very back, there's a musician playing, and they have the little like baby shower decorations set up, and the three of them are just passed out on the couch together, kind of mirroring the way they were passed out on the couch while under the dream spell. Though it's kind of funny because like, where are the other guests of the baby shower? Did they just leave them there to sleep? It's a little bit confusing because it was obvious that Piper's friends, who we have heard about before and now in this episode are seeing, we're there to help out with the baby shower. We're planning on attending, but like, what the hell? Like, this final scene is the one thing in the episode where I'm like, this is so silly. Because like, if they fell asleep at a baby shower at their own house, I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay. Like maybe the guests just left because they all needed their rest. But like, why are they sleeping at the club and just no one is paying any attention to this? Like, I know they're in their own little like separate alcove that they sit in, but it's not a different room. Like, that was the one thing in the episode that I was really just like, it's a cute little ending, but like logically it just doesn't make any sense to me. In terms of my overall thoughts on the episode and kind of wrapping it up, like I said, I really enjoyed the episode. I think that the storyline itself was really fun. I think the writing was really witty, the way they're like referencing dreams throughout. Even when Piper comes in to see Leo and Paige talking in the morning, she's like, oh, the man of my dreams. Again, overcompensating for the fact that she was dreaming about another man. But it's really funny, again, well written, put together. I enjoyed diving into the sisters' psyches and the way that each of their dreams and their fears from those dreams were so reflective with things they were struggling on in their real world. I like the way the episode used dreams in order to have us deal with things, and that when we can't deal with them, it has a major effect on our emotions in the real world. I know personally, like, I have weird fucking dreams and I'm not always the best at interpreting them. But thinking about the fact that like in sleep and in dreams is where we can deal with some of those really hard emotional things was really fascinating for me to see. And now it has me even thinking more and more about my own dreams. But yeah, off of me and back to the episode, I do like where things are going. It's obvious we're getting near the end of Piper's pregnancy, so I'm again looking forward to this magical baby, what's going to happen there. I'm looking forward to see maybe Phoebe finally starting to move on with her life now that she's kind of accepting that she's not responsible for Cole's behavior. I think so much in this season, she's been everything bad that happens. It has to be Cole, it has to be Cole, it has to be Cole. And now kind of accepting a little bit that maybe it's her holding herself back and she has to give herself permission to move on. So I'm excited to see where things go for her. And in terms of Paige, I mean, I'm not really sure how much she'll move forward from this, but kind of accepting that things have changed, right? The baby isn't going to go through the things she went through, and she can continue to develop her own life and live it. Despite the circumstances of her birth, she now has this connection to her family of origin and to her sisters. And I think that this was a really important thing for her in terms of her overall growth. But yeah, that's all I have for this one. So I hope you'll join me back next time.